Why should you listen to a guy who's just grown walnuts for the first time? All of the experts will tell you the stuff they learned a long time ago, but they've forgotten all of those little mistakes they made the first few times they did it. I've just done this for the first time, and I can remember all the mistakes that I've just made. Welcome back to Deer Valley Homestead, and if you haven't been here before, my name's Andy. Today we're going to look at the walnuts that I planted last year. They've been in these black containers under here over the winter. Why should you grow walnuts anyway? Well, I can think of a few reasons. They're free, they're literally falling off the trees, they taste good, they store for a long time. They are amazing in cakes. How do you grow walnuts? Wait till autumn, they're going to fall off the trees. Here's some footage of me and B picking them up. I say me and B did all the picking them up because I had a bad knee, but you know, we'll take it. What are you going to do with those walnuts? You're going to put them through a process called cold stratification. And all that means is basically fake winter for the walnuts. If you keep them inside nice and warm, they're going to dry out, they're not going to grow. You need to try and recreate those conditions that they would be in naturally, that they would naturally sprout in. So in my case, I took a nice big black tub, I drilled a bunch of holes in the bottom, put a layer of sand about a quarter of the way up. I threw my walnuts in there, and then I put compost on the top, and then I left them outside. And that's the important part, is that they need to go through those temperature changes in winter time that they would normally anyway. So the walnuts sit in there all winter doing almost nothing. Around March time, you'll get your first little roots coming through. These guys here have been here a little bit too long. Their roots have hit the bottom of the container and it's quite difficult to untangle them. A lot of the experts are going to tell you to do a float test. And what that means is you put all your walnuts in a big bucket of water, and any of them that float are considered to be no good. What I can tell you about my experience is that I put all of these walnuts into a bucket of water and I left them there for 2 days, and not a single one of them sank. They all floated. I was pretty upset at that point. I thought I'd ruined my chances of growing walnuts for this year. And so I just planted them anyway. And here's the result. Oh, I have more walnuts than I know what to do with. There's a whole bunch that I've put in pots down at the potting table. You'll see that footage. And there's a whole bunch that I've put out here. When potting them out, there's a couple of mistakes that I made. Number one, the roots of these guys are still very fragile. It's very easy to break them, and I definitely broke about a quarter of the ones that I was taking out of the pot, out of these tubs. I think if I'd moved them a little bit earlier, maybe about a month ago, so maybe March time, and we're in zone 7 here, I don't know where you are, but we're in zone 7. So if we'd moved them in the middle of the March, it might have been a little bit easier to untangle the roots. But that comes to one of my next points, is that if you plant 100 walnuts, you're unlikely to get 100 plants. I knew that I wanted some walnuts. I have no idea how many walnut trees I really want. I just wanted to try it. And my logic was the more that I put in here, the more likely that some of them would grow. So the reality is that I have way more than I need, but that's a good situation to be in. That way, if I break a few, damage a few, if I accidentally get some frosted, it doesn't matter so much. So in here, I've tried a couple of different ways of planting them. Some at the end down here, which are just in compost. There's some in the middle, which are more spread out, and then there's some which are even more spread out down here. All of these guys are just starting to get their first leaves. So I'm pretty excited. I'm taking that as success. One of the mistakes that I made when I was potting up my plants last week was that I uncovered a lot of these little shoots, and when I put them in the pots I was a little bit excited and I left those shoots uncovered. And what happened to some of those shoots was that they got burned by the sun. They just weren't ready to be in the sun, so they've turned a horrible black colour. Some of them have survived, some of them have died. And that's my fault, uncovering them too early. Easy mistake to make, but one less for you guys to make now. Next mistake I made is that these tubs really weren't deep enough. I should have put maybe halfway to sand and then the walnuts and then the compost. So what's happened with these guys, who are now a little bit bigger, are the roots have gone down and then they've have shot off at 90 degrees because they wanted to keep growing, but they couldn't keep going down. What I have done in this bed is pretty simple. I dug down as far as I could with a spade and just turned the soil over. I then added in a bunch of compost from last year. You may remember building the composter, I think it was on one of the first videos. And then I've turned that into the soil. I've then added a bunch of soil on top from the rotivated area, and then I've added a little bit of compost as well. So by my reckoning, there's about 100 trees in here. There's probably at least 100 more in here I could plant. We'll see how much time I have. We're about half full on the bed. And of course, me being me, I have a couple of evergreen trees that I picked up the other week that I would like to plant as well. So those are going to go in the other end just as a place to store them. This week we've also done a bunch of other projects. You'll see B doing the strawberries. You'll also see B planting out the greenhouse. Just put all the tomatoes in there that are staying out. And you're also going to see the footage of our new birdhouse. It's pretty cool. I hope you enjoy. Well team, as always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week.